I'm delighted to welcome Aisling O'Mara to the show. Aisling is an actor and writer who received her BA in acting from the Lir Academy at Trinity College Dublin. She is a resident artist with Dublin Fringe Festival this year, and she wrote and performed in Nothing But a Toerag, which had a revival at Bewleys Cafe Theatre after opening at Smock Alley. We'll hopefully be seeing her soon in the First Pegeen at Bewleys Cafe Theatre, which is now moved to the Irish Georgian Society. Welcome to the show, Aisling. How are you keeping?
Hi. Good, thank you. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
There's been some fairly important announcements recently from the Arts Council, but we do want to focus on one in particular, which is congratulations on being one of the recipients of the Next Generation Award. Can you tell us what this means for your practice and at this stage in your career?
It's kind of invaluable, really. At the moment, like I feel like I'm at a pivotal point in my career from going from actor to writer to maker, and it's kind of just given me time and space, and I got some amazing mentors that I can work with, see how this works, and really go for it this year, which is I knew I had to do because otherwise I'm always kind of chasing my tail. But now I can just have a serious focus on this, which is, it's invaluable.
Can you tell us about your experience applying for the award?
Yeah.
Like, where did you start, I suppose?
I went on to ITI because they were having a big chat about how to, ITI's the Irish Theatre Institute, who they're amazing. And I'd have a relationship with them because I did Show in a Bag a few years ago. So I went on to listen to this talk about the application and I got off the phone. I said, there's no way I'm doing that. That is huge. Like, I can't do that. It felt so vast and so big. So I think I gave myself about 3 days and I said, have a think about it. And I don't think there's any point of applying for something if you don't have a reason to. So I've never applied for arts application before or arts grants because I've never really felt that I was in the right place in the right moment in my career to go at one. So this time just felt right because I had just done a play called Shit, and which I had a ball on, which got closed during the lockdown. But it was with This Is Pop Baby, who were amazing. And Jenny Jennings directed it, and Philip Conaghan was movement director on it. And we did so much physical work that I kind of forgot that in a way from the Lir, because when I was there and I loved moving, and it just relit a light inside me, I guess, that I was like, oh yeah, like this can really adapt to the words. And how does that work? How do you marry these two together where it feels really fluid, where they're actually singing to each other? And that's kind of what I applied for the Next Generation with. It was with a real focus on movement and dialogue and how they work together. And I do have an obsession with kind of the flawed in people and imperfections and also trauma, how it manifests in the body. And I wanted to kind of amalgamate these all together and see, with having Sonia Kelly as one of my mentors, which I'm like over the moon with because she's so brilliant in her writing. And then I also have Philip Conaghan as my movement director. As my mentor to play with in different times this year. So they'll mentor me and show me different ways how to adapt their brilliance and see if I can learn from that and find my own way to make.
Amazing. Yeah. What a team you got.
Yeah, and I'm really lucky. But the application itself, it probably took me the guts of a month. Like, it's really, really big and daunting. And you have to make this artist statement that I didn't know about. I was like, what's an artist statement? What do I say? Like, hello, my name's Aisling O'Mara. No, you can't. Yeah, it's like, God, it's really embarrassing. But you kind of have to say what your interests are, what moves you, what you want to investigate, what you want to understand, what you're trying to apply to your practice, where you out of your pivotal moment right now. For me, I've wrote one play on my own, and I co-wrote a play before with Robbie O'Connor and Louise Lowe, which I adored, called Rebel Rebel. And then I wrote Nothing But a Toerag. So I'm at that moment where I can get much better if there's help behind me, I feel. But if I keep just going round in circles, I don't know if I'm going to forward my career in it, which is my aim and what I want to do. So I think for me, and Robbie O'Connor was brilliant as well, actually. I talked to him a good bit when I was applying, and he was like, just be honest. Just be really honest about what you want to do. You know, don't be using all these highfalutin words that you don't really understand or can't say properly. Just say it from the heart. And yeah, I think I was very focused and I knew what I was trying to achieve. And I think that's really important when you're going for these kind of applications, that you have a very good understanding of what you're trying to achieve in it. Because these applications are like real vague at times. But I think if you're focused and know what you're doing, it's half the battle.
So now, did that come over like a period of time then, or did you actually sit yourself down and go, okay? Because I know personally, like trying to identify what gets you or what sparks that joy or passion or guttural reaction can be really difficult.
So I think, as I said, I kind of gave myself 3 days, and I talked to friends. I talked to friends I trust. I talked to friends who are also makers and writers and who would have the same background as me, who've been actors and have gone down different roads. And I think I talked myself around. I think somewhere subconsciously I knew maybe I'm going to go for this. So what I did is I talked to friends in the industry, and then I wrote it down one night, like small bits. I find it really hard to sit in front of a computer and not too sure what you're going to write, but then start. It's just really hard. No one tells you it's that hard. It really is that hard. But I think what someone said to me was like, just get some words down for your artist statement of what you think you want to do, and then you can edit, and then you can play. Like, yeah, I'm really lucky that I have some brilliant friends that I can have really honest conversations with. There was Fanula Gigax who was like, but you're really into drama. Like that's what you love. And I was like, that is what I love, you know, and that and that brings you somewhere kind of like, you know, and that brings you somewhere else, you know. And then I was like, ITI were just so amazing. You'd send them stuff, and it was Elaine who was helping me, and she's like, but where are you? What are you trying to say? You know, go back to what you're trying to do. Because I think I went off on rants within the statement of who I loved and their work. And she's like, that's brilliant, but how's it to you? How's it go back to you? So it's really tricky, but I think it's really important that someone you value can read it and objectively look at it and say, that's not about you. That's about something else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the idea of if you write down the words, you'll know which ones are wrong almost. If you put a bunch of words on a page and you'll be able to, the editing process can be almost more clear than the actual initial writing.
Well, you can't edit anything if you haven't written it. Do you know? That's just where it comes from.
Well,
Yeah.
so you were talking about the specific needs of your practice and the development that you wanted to like fulfill essentially as an artist and why you wanted to go after this award. How were there certain things you wanted to do? Like how did you go about identifying those specific needs and then putting them
I
into
think,
words?
yeah, that's a really good question. It's hard now because I don't think it comes ABC. It actually came backwards for me. I knew that I wanted to really play with movement again. And I knew I wanted to have movement and words together, really, really sing to each other instead of sometimes, you know, sometimes when you watch pieces of art and you go, all right, here's the movement section. I want to see if they can sing to each other. You know, in my words, or, you know, that's what I was trying to push forward to. So yeah, I think in that way I was like, I knew I wanted workshops with Philip Connaughton. I knew I wanted sessions with Sonia Kelly about structure and art and the world and how to form worlds and plays and, you know, motifs and themes, everything. And then otherwise, I wanted to go outside Dublin, outside Ireland, to see more work, because I've been really, one of the plays I've been most influenced by would have been Hamlet, that came here years ago from a German company. It was in the Borgosh, and it was out of this world. And it was in German, there was subtitled, and I'm dyslexic, so like it still was amazing, and I understood it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time I really saw Hamlet to be insane nearly, and it was phenomenal. And then I saw another dance show called Petrophenite in the dance festival, I think 2-3 years ago, and it was about a man's mental breakdown. And it was so clear and so beautiful and so wild and accessible to me. And there was hardly any words in it. And I was like, well, I love words as well. Can they dance with each other? And do you know what I mean? Can they bleed into each other?
Mm-hmm.
And then I also looked at other work that I love, like Come On Home by Philip McMahon is one of my favourite all-time plays. It's beautifully written. The arguments are superb. Structurally, it's gorgeous. The characters are honest and flawed and there and raw. And that's what I want to play with, is them together and how do they sing with each other. And that's the push, I guess. So yeah, I would have done my homework essentially. And I think that's what someone said to me is, what do you like? And I was like, oh, what do I like? Especially from an actor point of view, because we like everything, right? Any audition we're in, we like every play. You know, and
I'll be whatever you want me to be.
Yeah, give it 24 hours. But it's that thing of like, what do I like? You know, and Marina's car work is so raw. Her words are so raw and beautiful, and her characters are so flawed. And yet I feel so much for them. I just had to figure out what I liked, do you know? And that took a while. That did take a while. And and I had to critically look at work and go, but why do I like that? And what is it that you know, drew me towards that? And that's hard.
I think we also need to allow ourselves to change as well in what we like and what we look after, and how the world's affecting us and what we're drawn to because of that.
Yeah, I think that's really smart, because it's always about, because when you go see a play, you have to remember what kind of day you had. What's the weather like outside for you? Are you stressed out of your head walking in, or are you cool as a cucumber? Do you know, like, they're all going to affect how you take in that show when you see it. Theatre for me is so visceral that there's certain moments I might not remember the line they said, but I remember exactly how I felt. You know, like when Maggie threw the flower for the first time I'd ever seen that, and Dancing at Lunasa, I was just sitting there crying. Like, and I was on my own watching the show, and I'm just sitting there, like, without realizing, you're just sitting there crying because you don't know why, but it's done something to you, and it might take me 2-3 days to regurgitate that, to understand what that was. So that's what I want to do.
Makes complete sense. I felt that.
Yeah.
So how did you find, because you said it took you about a month to make this application. How did you structure that time?
First time, start with your artist statement, which is all about you, and not exactly what you exactly want to do, but where you're at. So I would have started by introducing myself a little bit, who I am, what I do. Told them I've wrote one play on my own, and you know, I'm looking for the dreaded second album, and I want to get it right. And I'm at a, you know what I mean, pivotal point in my career, and then I kind of went into, for me, I said what my interests were. So I talked about how I have an interest in the flawed, and I'm not afraid of stories that people go, oh, that's boring, that's boring. I'm like, I don't care if it's boring, it interests me. And if it interests me, it definitely interests someone else. And I'm not afraid of those boring stories, or not pop culture, you know. I don't know, I think for me. And then otherwise, after that, I would have talked about work I loved. That's what I've just kind of discussed. And then after that, I said which mentors I liked, and said that I had these 2 amazing mentors. And I briefly explained why. So that's about a page, like it's an A4. So you try and make the writing as tiny as you can so you can fit as much as you want on that. And then otherwise, it's real tedious. It's real tedious. And then otherwise, but they're amazing. Thanks Arts Council. But then otherwise, they ask you, how are you going to do this? What are you going to do? And I think it was Claire Monley said to me that Salog had put a timeline of when she was going to do things. So I think that's what I did, is I started saying, this is my aim to do from August 2020 to 21. And I might have talked about what I want to gain by having Sonia as a mentor. And then what I wanted to gain of having Philip as a mentor. And then how I wanted to go see theatre in other places for me to branch out. Because if I'm not being influenced by other work, I don't think we grow. And Ireland have such a magical way with raw emotion and words. But I really want to see theatre unconventionally more. Like, really batshit crazy. And see how my, you know what I mean? How my brain can understand that. And how can I learn from that? And then I talked about I said Pacific times that I want to go down to McCarrick as a writer retreat and write there for maybe 3 different times over the year. And I did that. And then they they say, like, how is this going to change you? What are you going to achieve? And that's really hard because you're kind of speaking hypothetical, but yet you have to be very sure of yourself. And I really kind of talked about that it being a pivotal time in my career, and that this could be the make and change of me. And this could be, that's really kind of it. And it's really important when you're going through the Arts Council that you read the questions they're asking, because they're tedious. There's no point in saying they aren't. And here as well, they say like 500 words, but it might be like 50 characters. And I was like, why isn't this fitting in that? They're not the same thing. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's all the little tidbits. What would you recommend when people are applying? Like, is there any other tips or tricks that you found, or any stumbling blocks that you encountered?
Be yourself. Get someone else to read it. Make best friends at ITI. Get in there the year before you do it. Love the ladies. No, they're brilliant. And try and get yourself around people who've either done it or are applying for it or understand what they're doing. And there's no way, I know personally for me, that I could have applied for this any other year because I just wasn't ready. That's the truth. Yeah.
So knowing yourself served you well.
Yeah. And just be really yourself when you're writing, because I think if anyone doesn't speak like themselves, people can smell bullshit. And I think they can smell it off paper as well, Yeah.
Sometimes it can feel that we're not getting anywhere with applications for funding. In that case, do you think that there's anything that the artist should rethink?
Yeah, like I do. And I don't necessarily ever think it means your idea or your creative process, actually. I think it might be maybe how you're approaching to go about applications. What I find for me is I'm not great at talking about work. I'm just like, just read my play or hear it read, or like even for Nothing But a Toerag, they're like, can you do the synopsis? And I was like, no, I don't know how to do that, because it's so big in my head. So much stuff happens in that play in my head. I can't synopsis myself. I find it really difficult. So what I do is kind of tease your idea out with someone you trust. And they'll be like, oh, but that's not what you're saying in your application, or maybe you should put that in. Do you know? And I think that's really important, that you tease out the idea in front of someone else, because sometimes up here just isn't connecting out here. It's just not.
I understand. Yeah.
Totally. And I'm terrible for that. So it's just really important, and always someone you trust. And then also, I think it's always good to talk to someone who's been in the business longer, because I think when I came out of college, I was very young, and no, I wasn't that young. That's a lie. I was like in my late 20s, but I mean, I was naive. Of I thought I knew how this industry works. Didn't have a clue, and I still don't think I have a clue. Like, still, when it comes to applications, yes, generation is amazing, but that's, I can talk about me, about what I want to do. But if I want to go for development funding or production funding, you need to be really careful, because you can only go to them with one idea. And if they say no to that idea, you can't apply with that idea again. I never knew that. So I'm still going to people who've got that, like who have actually got that funding, and been like, not like, can I rob what you did? But how did you word that? How did you go about that? And I think it's really important that you just talk to people who've done it. You know, like, they're the ones who have got through this. So I think it's important to talk to them, and then someone you trust, who knows your eye and can probably look at it at a more critical point of view than you can. Because look, we're artists, we're precious, and we get sore really quickly.
Yep.
We just do.
Maybe something so clear to you, like, I know something can feel so clear in my head, just like this sentence, trying to get it out, but like it can feel so clear, and then it just comes out, and you're like, where? How did that happen?
Yeah,
That is not what I meant.
completely. And you just need someone in that kind of going, what are you talking about? That is absolute garbage what you just said, you know? And you go, was it? And your ego goes, no. And then your brain goes, yep, it was. You know, and it's just looking at it, and it's reframing. A lot of it is reframing, and it's knowing how to do that. And that's a skill within itself. And we're not really taught how to do that. You know, you kind of have to figure it out yourself. It's tedious, but it's completely doable. It's a lot of hard
You
work,
gotta throw
but sure,
yourself
look,
in. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I think all of that has been so insightful and helpful. I know that
Oh, good. I hope so.
right now funding is such a that almost feels like the only lifeline that we have, is like, okay, you got to get funding and then you can create.
And
Not that that's
also,
always
well,
the
look,
case.
no one did that for me. I created on my own because I realized I was looking at stories going, there's nothing here that I aspire to. I don't see myself being represented here. So that's when I went off, and when I wrote Nothing But a Toerag, the play took me 3 years to write. Do you know, just because it was kind of right in the end. But I developed that and everything because no one gave me money and asked me to do that. And it wasn't just for me as a showcase. It was a story I wanted to tell. And I think those wires are getting mixed up sometimes. I think sometimes people are trying to make showcases. And I think sometimes, pies, it's not a word, sometimes it's about the work. And I think people can smell that straight away. That if you're applying about the work, or if you're applying for passion projects, or yeah, they're two different things, and it's to find the balance, and yeah, what you want to do. Is it for the work?
Like that. It's a good question.
Oh,
That should be at the bottom of every application. Is it for the work?
it is, and yeah, it should be. But
Well,
it won't. No,
so to switch, I suppose, veins just slightly on a more personal level, like what has been inspiring you creatively, and what have you been spending your time doing in all of this, besides maybe applications?
well, yes, I did. I have to. I will say one thing, right? Yeah, of course. I probably did do the next gen application due to lockdown. It gave me more time, it gave me more space, and it made me focus on something different. Creatively, I think the lockdown's been really challenging because I had blocked off. Remember, I told you earlier, I block off times to do things. And I had blocked off April and May this year, April, May, and I think even June, to write, to finish something. And we were in lockdown. I was like, oh, deadly. Yeah, I'm not going to miss anything. Brilliant. Got to get this done. Bing, bing, bang. No. It was really challenging because you're not seeing anything. You're not experiencing things. You're not talking to people who keep you alive. Not, well, I don't mean alive in that way because people did lose their lives. I'm not kind of trying to get into that. But what I will say, I found it really difficult to actually be creative and write work because I was locked in my house and my family are incredible, but I couldn't get to the theatre, and I'd easily see a show a week, if not two. I love seeing work. Sitting at home watching films and TV shows begin to become a blur to me, and I can't follow them anymore. Like, I think I watched 1 million episodes of Grey's Anatomy and I still couldn't tell you what happened. That's what I did in the lockdown. And that show's amazing, you know, like there's parts that are amazing. But creatively it was just really challenging and it was really difficult. What I worked on was a play called Bessie, which is what I'd spoke to you before about, that I had got a bursary in 2018. And I finally got a draft done, and then I got to about draft 4, but that was just fiddling with placement and stuff. And I was lucky enough last week. I had a workshop of it, with real actors in a real room, and it was incredible and it was great, and it was brilliant. And because it's such a personal family story, like my auntie was in and my mum were in, and they were talking about it. And I found where my play has loads of mistakes, and I found where there's some nice pluses. So I'm very much back to the drawing board, but I'm in the completely right direction. So that's been great. I'd say I'll have that play properly. I'd say we'll do more development, I'd say in the next month or two. And then hopefully I'll have like a rehearsal draft, I'd say in about 4 months, 4 or 5 months.
Exciting.
I'd say about 6. It's about 6 months if I'm going to be honest.
Well, who knows? We might still be in phase 3.
I know. Well, this is it, and if that happens, then we will be getting no drafts. And then I've been lucky. I am back in rehearsal for the First Pegeen, which is a play that I did in Bewleys Cafe Theatre last October. And Bewleys, I think, is so brilliant. They've found a new place that they're trial and erroring. Oh God, I don't know how to do that. And it's fantastic. I'm really excited, and that's kicking off in the next 2 weeks. Yeah.
I think we were
fun.
also
a live show.
To hear also that with kind of the confusion that's going on with the cafe on Grafton Street, like the fact that the cafe theatre has a home, like that is essential.
No, and officially I don't know if that's their home for life, but I know I'm definitely in there. And Michael's first. He's starting tomorrow. He opens tomorrow. He'll be the first person doing a one-man show in Ireland, I think, which is amazing. And he's fantastic. But it's in the Georgian Society of Ireland on South William Street.
That sounds right.
Oh God,
right,
thank God, because I was like, is it? Yeah, it's not in Powers Court, but it's close by it. And I think it holds 20. You can pre-book 20 seats, and I think they're allowing 1 or 2 walk-ups. So it's on at 1:00, and if you're missing that visceral feeling, I think that's where it's at.
All are. So we will all see you there.
It's really hard to do work over these Zooms, and it's really challenging to put a method of work through another tunnel, you know, and I think everyone is so brilliant for attempting different ways. I just know that I couldn't do that. My skill level isn't up to notch yet, nor should it be. You know what I mean? I'm still learning as I'm going on, but for me, I really miss that visceral feeling of seeing a human being alive in front of me, doing their thing.
Definitely.
It is. It's
Aisling, thank you
rotten. It's
so
like,
much.
oh,
Oh, sorry.
absolutely. Thank you.
This was an absolute delight.
Me too.
Congratulations again on being recipient of the Next Generation Award. We can't wait to see what you do and how that goes for you.
Oh, thank you so much, Abigail. This is a ball.